Jordan's hands won't stop shaking. It's 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and she's staring at a single piece of paper that's about to detonate a 49-year-old mystery. The coffee next to her has gone cold. Her grandfather's case file is scattered across the dining room table like a bomb went off. One witness statement, one overlooked detail, one vehicle description that nobody ever followed up on. What if everything the police believed for half a century was completely wrong? In 1976, a 4-year-old girl vanished from a campsite in North Carolina. No body, no ransom, no trace, just gone. An entire town lived in terror. A family shattered into pieces. One detective refused to give up, convinced she was still alive somewhere. Now, that detective's granddaughter just found the thread that could unravel it all. If you love deep dive mysteries that'll keep you up at night, hit that subscribe button. You're gonna want to see where this goes. Let's go back to where it all started. Late August, 1976, Pisgah National Forest, North Carolina. The kind of place where families came to escape the world for a weekend. Towering pines, mountain air so clean it almost hurts to breathe, and campfire smoke drifting through the trees at sunset. The Lewis family had claimed their spot 3 days earlier. Dad, Mom, 7-year-old Thomas, and 4-year-old Harper. They'd packed the station wagon to the roof, sleeping bags, a cooler full of hot dogs, and Harper's stuffed rabbit that went everywhere she did. By all accounts, it was a perfect trip. Thomas caught his first fish. Harper collected pine cones in a bucket and insisted they were treasures. Mom snapped photos on their Polaroid camera. Dad joked about never going back to the real world. Then, on their final evening, everything changed. It was around 6:30 p.m. The sun was dipping behind the ridgeline, turning the sky that deep orange-purple you only get in the mountains. Harper was playing near the tent no more than 20 feet away, singing some made-up song about rabbits and rainbows. Her mom was inside the tent, folding sleeping bags. Her dad was at the car, loading gear for the drive home in the morning. Thomas was supposed to be watching his little sister, but he'd wandered off to skip rocks at the creek. Just minutes, maybe 5, maybe less. When Mrs. Lewis stepped out of the tent, Harper was gone. The stuffed rabbit was on the ground. The bucket of pine cones tipped over. But no Harper. The scream that tore out of her mother's throat echoed across the entire campground. Mr. Lewis dropped everything and ran, shouting Harper's name until his voice cracked and gave out. Thomas came sprinting back from the creek, chest heaving, eyes wild with panic. They searched. They called. They begged the forest to give her back. But Harper Lewis had vanished like she'd been swallowed whole by the trees, and the nightmare was just beginning. Within 30 minutes, the forest was swarming with people. Park rangers, fellow campers, volunteer search teams with flashlights cutting through the darkening woods. They formed lines, shoulder to shoulder, calling Harper's name in unison, hoping, praying, they'd hear a little voice call back. By midnight, helicopters circled overhead with searchlights. Bloodhounds arrived from 3 counties over, sniffing Harper's clothing, trying to pick up a trail. They'd catch a scent, follow it for 50 yards, then lose it completely, over and over again. It didn't make sense. A 4-year-old doesn't just disappear, not without leaving something behind. A footprint, a torn piece of clothing, a sign of struggle, anything. But there was nothing. The forest had swallowed her whole. The search expanded. 50 square miles, then 100. Divers checked every creek and pond within a 10-mile radius. Volunteers combed through underbrush so thick you needed machetes to get through. Every cave, every ravine, every abandoned hunting cabin. Searched, cleared, searched again. And still, nothing. Meanwhile, back at the campground, something else was happening. Fear was spreading like wildfire. Parents who'd been letting their kids roam freely all weekend were suddenly clutching them close. Families packed up in the middle of the night and left. By sunrise, half the campground was empty. The local news picked up the story. Within 48 hours, it was statewide. FOURYEAROLD girl vanishes from campsite. Massive search underway. Tips started flooding in. Hundreds of them. Most led nowhere. But one tip stood out. Multiple campers, at least 4 separate families, reported seeing a woman near the Lewis campsite the day Harper disappeared. Mid to late 30s, maybe early 40s. Shoulder-length brown hair, unkempt, wearing a faded denim jacket despite the summer heat. One family said she'd been watching them, just standing, staring, from across the clearing, standing near the tree line, not moving. Another family said she'd approached them, asked strange questions. How old is your daughter? Does she like to travel? Is she a good listener? The father told her to get lost. She smiled this weird, hollow smile, and walked away. By the time investigators pieced together these accounts, the woman was long gone. No one got a license plate. No one knew her name. She'd vanished just as completely as Harper had. The theory formed fast. Stranger abduction. A drifter. Someone who'd been hunting for an opportunity and found it. But without physical evidence, it was just a theory. And theories don't bring children home. The first week turned into a month. The first month turned into 6. And the leads? They dried up like water in the desert. The mysterious woman became a ghost. Sketch artists worked with witnesses to create a composite, and it was plastered everywhere: post offices, gas stations, truck stops across 5 states. Thousands of tips came in. Every single one was a dead end. She had no name, no vehicle anyone could confirm, no connection to the area that investigators could trace. It was like she'd materialized out of thin air, took Harper, and dissolved back into nothing. The FBI got involved. They brought in profilers, behavioral analysts, the works. The theories started multiplying. Theory 1. Drifter abduction. Someone passing through, saw an opportunity, took it. Harper could be anywhere, sold, trafficked, hidden in plain sight in some other state. Theory 2. Organized ring. Maybe the woman wasn't working alone. Maybe she was a recruiter for something bigger, darker. Theory 3. Local involvement. Someone who knew the area, knew the campground layout, knew how to disappear into those mountains without a trace. Theory 4, and this one made Mrs. Lewis physically ill: wild animal attack. A bear, a mountain lion, something that dragged Harper off so fast and far that searchers never found remains. But that theory got dismissed fast. No blood, no clothing shreds, no disturbance in the surrounding area. Animals leave evidence. This was something else. Then came the worst part. Standard procedure in missing child cases: investigate the family. So the cops turned their attention to Mr. and Mrs. Lewis. Interrogations, polygraphs, background checks that dug into every corner of their lives. They passed everything. Clean records, clean tests, no red flags. But the damage was done. The whispers started, the suspicious looks from neighbors, the way people crossed the street to avoid talking to them. Some folks in town actually believed the parents were involved, that the camping trip was a cover-up, that they'd done something terrible and staged the whole thing. It was destroying them. Mrs. Lewis stopped leaving the house. She'd sit by the window for hours, staring at the driveway, convinced Harper would come walking up any minute. She refused to move, refused to even visit family out of state. What if she comes home, and we're not here? Mr. Lewis went the opposite direction. He threw himself into advocacy, joined missing children's organizations, spoke at awareness events, plastered Harper's photo on every telephone pole within 100 miles. He couldn't sit still, couldn't stop moving, because stopping meant accepting she was gone. Thomas, the older brother, retreated into himself. He was 7 when it happened. He blamed himself. He was supposed to watch her. He went to the creek instead. In his mind, Harper's disappearance was his fault, and no amount of therapy or reassurance could shake it. By 1979, the Lewis's marriage collapsed, divorce papers signed, family shattered, and Harper's case, it went cold, shelved, moved to the back of the filing cabinet, where old cases go to die. The media moved on. The volunteers stopped calling. The tips stopped coming. Everyone gave up. Well, almost everyone. This story's about to take a turn you won't see coming, but first, smash that like button if you're as hooked as I am. Seriously, it helps more than you know. Detective Raymond Cole was 32 years old when Harper Lewis disappeared. He was young for a lead investigator, ambitious, the kind of cop who worked cases like his life depended on it. But Harper's case did something to him that no other case ever had. It haunted him, not in the cliché, I can't sleep at night way. It was deeper than that. It burrowed into his bones and made a home there. Every other detective on the task force eventually moved on. New cases, new assignments, promotions, retirements. That's how it works. You can't carry every case forever. But Cole couldn't let go. Even after the case officially went cold in 1980, he kept the file. Not in storage, not in some dusty archive. On his desk, right there in front of him, every single day. His captain told him to move on. His wife begged him to stop obsessing. His partner joked then stopped joking that Harper had become the daughter Ray never had. And maybe that was true. Cole and his wife couldn't have kids. Medical thing. They'd made peace with it, mostly. But something about Harper's case hit different. The thought of that little girl out there somewhere, scared, alone, maybe calling for help that never came. It ate at him. But here's the thing. Cole didn't believe she was dead. Call it gut instinct, call it denial, call it whatever you want. But he had this unshakable feeling that Harper was alive. Somewhere. Why? No body. That was the big one. 49 years in law enforcement taught him that when someone wants you to find a body, you find it. When they don't, you don't. No body meant intention. Meant someone took her to keep her. And then there were the sightings. Unverified, sure, shaky at best. But they kept coming. 1,982. A schoolteacher in Knoxville, Tennessee calls in. Swears one of her students looks exactly like the age-progressed sketch of Harper. Investigators, check it out. The girl's birth certificate checks out clean. Parents cooperative. Dead end. 1,989. A truck driver passing through Tulsa, Oklahoma reports seeing a teenage girl at a rest stop who matches the description. She seemed off, nervous, wouldn't make eye contact, kept looking over her shoulder. By the time cops arrive, she's gone. 1,995. A waitress in Augusta, Georgia, serves a woman and a young girl maybe 20 years old at a diner. The woman introduces the girl as her niece, but something feels wrong. The girl looks terrified. Won't speak, won't order for herself. The waitress writes down the license plate, calls it in. Plates come back stolen. Trail goes cold. Every single one of these tips, Cole logged. Followed up. Drove hundreds of miles to chase ghosts. His colleagues thought he'd lost it. His family worried he was cracking under the weight of something he'd never solve. But Cole had a rule. A code he lived by. You don't abandon a child. Ever. So he didn't. For 49 years, he kept looking. Jordan Cole grew up with a ghost at the dinner table. Not literally, but close enough. Every family gathering, Thanksgiving, Christmas, random Sunday dinners, her grandfather would eventually steer the conversation back to Harper Lewis. The case that got away, the little girl he never stopped searching for. Most kids would have tuned it out. Found it weird. Maybe even creepy. But Jordan? She was fascinated. By age 10, she was flipping through the case file during family visits, studying witness statements like they were adventure novels. By 15, she was asking questions her grandfather's colleagues never thought to ask. By 25, she'd become an investigative reporter for a major news outlet, one of those journalists who doesn't just report stories, she hunts them. She'd broken corruption scandals, exposed fraud rings, tracked down fugitives that the cops couldn't find, but she'd never touched her grandfather's case. It felt too personal, too heavy, and honestly, she figured if he couldn't solve it after half a century, what chance did she have? Then, in early 2025, everything changed. Detective Raymond Cole, now 83 years old, moving slower, forgetting names sometimes, but still sharp, where it counted, called her. His voice sounded different, tired, fragile, in a way she'd never heard before. Jordan, I need a favor. A big one. He wanted her to take one last look at the case. Fresh eyes, modern perspective. The kind of approach that someone who grew up with the internet and databases and DNA technology might bring. Maybe it's time to pass the torch, he told her. You see things I don't. You always have. Jordan hesitated. She'd covered cold cases before. Most of them stayed cold. The odds of finding anything new after 49 years, practically zero. But the desperation in her grandfather's voice, the way he said, one last look, got to her. So she said yes. 2 weeks later, she was sitting in a conference room at the county sheriff's department, staring at 12 banker boxes stacked against the wall. 49 years of investigation, thousands of pages, witness interviews, search reports, lab results, maps, photos, psychic tips, crank calls, conspiracy theories, you name it. The detective who helped her haul the boxes out looked sympathetic. You sure you want to do this? Most of this stuff's been combed through 100 times. Jordan smiled. That's what they said about the Riverside embezzlement case, too. I found the smoking gun in a footnote. She spent the next 3 months living inside those boxes. Weekends at her grandfather's house. Late nights at her apartment. Yellow highlighters. sticky notes, coffee by the gallon, and for 3 months, nothing. Until one Friday night, when everything changed. What time is it where you are right now? Late night mystery binge or daytime deep dive? Let me know in the comments. Friday night, May 17th, 2025, 11:34 p.m. Jordan's sitting at her grandfather's dining room table, surrounded by paperwork that smells like decades-old dust and disappointment. Her laptop's open. Her phone's dead. There's a cold cup of coffee next to a stack of witness statements she's read so many times she could recite them from memory. She's done. Ready to quit. 3 months of digging, and she's found exactly nothing that 100 other investigators haven't already seen. No new leads. No hidden clues. Just the same dead ends her grandfather's been hitting for half a century. She closes the folder in front of her, rubs her eyes, thinks about calling him tomorrow and letting him down gently. Then something stops her. It's a witness statement. Park ranger named Douglas Finch, interviewed 2 days after Harper disappeared. She's read it before twice, actually, but something about it nags at her, so she reads it again. Finch reported seeing a woman matching the suspect's description near the campground. Standard stuff. But then, there's this one paragraph, buried in the middle. I saw her 3 days prior to the Lewis incident, at a different site about 2 miles north. She was with a young girl, maybe 3 to 4 years old. The child was crying, calling for mama. The woman told her to be quiet. When I approached to check if everything was okay, the woman became hostile, said, "Mind your business. She's my kid." I noted it felt off, but I had no grounds to intervene. In hindsight, I wish I had. Jordan reads it again, then again. Her pulse kicks up. 3 days before Harper vanished. That means the woman was already at the forest. Already had a child with her. A child who was crying for her mother. This wasn't random. This wasn't some drifter who happened to pass through and saw an opportunity. This was hunting. Jordan flips ahead in the report. Finch included more details. The woman's appearance, her demeanor, and then right there at the bottom of page 2, a detail that must have seemed irrelevant at the time. Subject was driving a tan Volkswagen van, older model, with a bumper sticker on the rear that read, "Free Spirit Tours." Jordan's hands start shaking. Nobody followed up on this. Nobody cross-referenced it. Finch gave the statement, it got filed away, and that was it. Because back in 1976, there was no centralized database, no way to run a quick search. You had to physically track things down. And with hundreds of tips pouring in, this one got buried. But Jordan has something the 1,976 investigators didn't. Google. She opens her laptop, types in, "Free Spirit Tours, 1,970 seconds, North Carolina," hits enter. The first result is an archived newspaper article from the Asheville Citizen-Times, dated March 1974. Local spiritual retreat faces, complaints from families. Jordan clicks, starts reading. Her heart's pounding now. The article describes a short-lived operation run by a woman named Donna Craig, a spiritual wellness retreat, based out of a property near Asheville. Parents complained that their adult children were being manipulated, exhibiting cult-like behavior, cutting off contact with their families. The business folded by late 1974 after mounting pressure from the community. Donna Craig disappeared from public records in 1975. Jordan's brain is racing now. She pulls up another tab, searches for Donna Craig, North Carolina, 1,976. Nothing recent, but she finds a DMV records database old, digitized files from the 70 seconds. She enters the name. Bingo. Donna Craig, tan Volkswagen van, registered in 1973, address in Asheville. Jordan sits back, stares at the screen. This wasn't a random abduction. Donna Craig was collecting children. And if she took Harper in 1976, if she'd already had another child 3 days earlier, how many others were there? Jordan grabs her phone, starts texting the sheriff's office, then stops. It's midnight. This can wait until morning. But she knows one thing for sure. Her grandfather was right. Harper Lewis's still out there. Okay, pause. If you're not subscribed yet, do it now, because what happens next is going to blow your mind. I'm not exaggerating. Monday morning, Jordan walks into the sheriff's department with a folder under her arm and a look on her face that says she means business. The current sheriff, a guy named Frank Kellerman, mid-50s, 28 years on the job, listens to her pitch. He's skeptical at first. You can see it in his eyes. Another cold case enthusiast with a theory. He's heard a million of them. But then Jordan lays out the evidence. The ranger's statement, the vehicle description, the connection to Donna Craig, the timeline that nobody ever pieced together. Kellerman leans back in his chair, rubs his jaw. You're telling me this woman had a kid with her 3 days before Harper disappeared, and nobody thought that was worth following up on? 1,976, Jordan says. Different protocols, different resources. It got lost in the noise. Kellerman picks up the phone, calls the state police, then the FBI. Within 48 hours, the case is officially reopened. Now it's not just Jordan digging through old files. It's a full task force. Detectives, analysts, forensic specialists, the works. First step: find out everything there is to know about Donna Craig. DMV records confirm it. Tan Volkswagen van. Registered to her from 1,973 to 1,978. The registration address is in Asheville, an old house on the outskirts of town that's now a strip mall. But property records show she owned it for 5 years, sold it in 1978 for cash, no forwarding address. They dig deeper. Criminal record? Clean. Not even a parking ticket. Which explains why she never popped up on anyone's radar. Background check reveals more. Born in 1938, that makes her 38 years old in 1976. Former elementary school teacher in Raleigh, fired in 1972. The official reason listed is inappropriate conduct with students. The details are sealed, but a former colleague remembers it differently. Says Donna got too attached to certain kids, would insist on taking them home after school, bringing them gifts, telling them they were special and chosen. Parents complained. School board let her go quietly, to avoid scandal. Marriage records show she was married briefly in the 1,960 seconds. Husband filed for divorce in 1967, citing mental instability and erratic behavior. In the divorce filings, he mentions that Donna became obsessed with having children, that she suffered multiple miscarriages, and never recovered emotionally. Medical records obtained through a warrant confirm it. 4 miscarriages between 1,963 and 1,966. The last one nearly killed her. Doctors told her she'd never be able to carry a child to term. Jordan reads through it all, and the picture gets clearer. Donna Craig wanted children, desperately, and when she couldn't have them, she decided to take them. The theory solidifies. She wasn't some random drifter. She was methodical, calculated. She targeted national parks and campgrounds, places where families were distracted, where kids wandered, where disappearances could be chalked up to accidents. She'd scope out locations, watch families, wait for the perfect moment, and once she had a child, she'd move. Stay off the grid. Homeschool them. Avoid hospitals. Avoid paperwork. Avoid anything that would create a trail. But here's the big question. Is Donna Craig still alive? The task force runs her social security number. No death certificate on file. No tax returns after 1995. No credit cards. No driver's license renewals. She either died and nobody reported it, or she's living under an alias. Modern technology kicks in. They pull old photos of Donna from the 1,970 seconds. Grainy, black and white, but clear enough. Run them through facial recognition software. Cross-reference with state databases, hospital records, even social media. Nothing. Then the FBI steps in with something bigger. They've been building a database of unidentified missing children cases from the 70 seconds and 80 seconds. Kids who vanished under similar circumstances, campgrounds, parks, rest stops, cases that went cold. They find 6 that match the pattern, all within a 500-mile radius of North Carolina, all between 1,974 and 1,985, all involving young children ages 3 to 6 who disappeared without a trace. 6 cases, 6 missing children, 1 potential suspect. The task force contacts the families. Some are still alive, some have passed. But every single one of them gets the same message: we think we've found the person responsible. And then, the break they've been waiting for. A DNA match. What's the weather like where you are today? Cozy mystery weather, or is the sun shining? Drop it in the comments, I'm curious. The DNA match comes from a genealogy website. You know the kind, one of those ancestry databases where people submit their DNA hoping to find long-lost relatives, trace their heritage, figure out if they're 2% Irish or whatever. In this case, a woman in her early 50s submitted a sample in late 2024. She was searching for her birth family. She'd been told her whole life that she was adopted, but the paperwork never quite added up. No official adoption records, no birth certificate that made sense. Just a woman she called Aunt Donna, who raised her in isolation and told her the past didn't matter. Her name, Rebecca Marsh, lives in a small town outside Missoula, Montana, works as a librarian. Quiet life, keeps to herself. When the FBI's genealogist runs Harper Lewis's parents' DNA through the database, looking for familial matches, Rebecca's profile lights up like a firework. 99.7% match. That's not maybe. That's not possibly. That's a biological daughter. The FBI contacts Rebecca on a Tuesday afternoon. She's at work, shelving books in the nonfiction section. When her phone rings, the agent on the other end is careful, gentle, but there's no easy way to say it. Miss Marsh, we have reason to believe you may have been abducted as a child in 1976. Your name was Harper Lewis. Your family has been looking for you for 49 years. Rebecca sits down, right there in the middle of the library. Doesn't say a word for a full minute. Then, quietly, I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what. Rebecca's story comes out in pieces. She agrees to meet with investigators. Jordan's there too, notepad in hand, recorder running, trying to keep her emotions in check. Rebecca doesn't remember North Carolina. Doesn't remember a camping trip or a family or a stuffed rabbit. Her earliest memory is being in a cabin somewhere cold. Mountains, trees everywhere. A woman she knew as Aunt Donna telling her she was special, chosen, saved. She told me, my real parents didn't want me, Rebecca says, voice steady but distant, like she's recounting someone else's life. That they were broken people, that she rescued me, that we were chosen by the universe to be together. Rebecca grew up in isolation. Donna homeschooled her, if you could even call it that. Taught her to read, to write, to cook and clean, and stay quiet. They moved constantly. Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Oregon, never stayed anywhere longer than a year or two. Donna avoided hospitals, avoided schools, avoided anyone who might ask questions. She didn't believe in doctors, Rebecca explains. Said they were part of a corrupt system. If I got sick, she'd treat me with herbs and prayer. One time I broke my arm falling out of a tree. She said it herself, didn't even wrap it properly. It healed, crooked. She holds up her left arm. You can see it, the slight bend near the wrist that never quite set right. Jordan's taking notes, but her hand is shaking. Rebecca continues. There were other kids too. Over the years, the room goes silent. Other kids? Rebecca nods. I remember maybe 4 or 5, different ages. They'd show up, stay for a few months, then disappear. Donna would say they went to their true homes or graduated to the next phase. I didn't understand what that meant. I was too young. But I remember them. Do you remember their names? No. Donna didn't like us using names. She called us things like Little Star or Bright One. I was Wildflower. The investigators exchange looks. This isn't just one abduction. This is a pattern, a system. Donna Craig had been running a rotating operation taking children, keeping them for a while. Then, what? Returning them? Selling them? The answer isn't clear yet. But one thing is, Rebecca wasn't the only one. Then comes the hard part. The FBI arranges a meeting between Rebecca and her biological family. Mrs. Lewis, now 75, frail, living in a nursing home in Asheville, gets the call first. When they tell her Harper's alive, she doesn't believe it, can't process it, thinks it's some kind of cruel prank. They show her the DNA results, the photos, the timeline. She collapses. Not from shock, from relief. The kind of relief that's been building for 49 years and finally has somewhere to go. Mr. Lewis passed away in 2019. Heart attack. He spent his entire life searching and never got to know she was found. But Thomas Harper's older brother is still alive. 56 now, lives in Charlotte, works in construction, never married, never had kids, carries the guilt of that day like a stone in his chest. When he gets the call, he doesn't say anything. Just books a flight to Montana. The reunion happens on a Sunday. It's awkward. It's overwhelming. It's everything you'd expect and nothing you'd imagine. Rebecca stands in the lobby of a hotel in Missoula, hands in her pockets, looking like she wants to bolt. Thomas walks in, and they just stare at each other. He's 56, she's 53. They're strangers, but Thomas starts crying. Can't help it. 49 years of guilt just come pouring out. I'm sorry, he says, voice breaking. I'm so sorry. I was supposed to watch you. I left. Rebecca cuts him off. You were 7 years old. It wasn't your fault. They sit, they talk, slowly, carefully. Rebecca tells him about her life, the cabins, the moving, the isolation, the woman who raised her under a lie. Thomas tells her about their parents, how mom never stopped waiting, how dad spent every dime trying to find her, how the family fell apart but never stopped loving her. Mom's in a home now, he says, but she's still sharp. She asks about you every single day. She never gave up hope. Rebecca wipes her eyes. I want to meet her. 2 days later, they fly to North Carolina. Mrs. Lewis is sitting in the common room of the nursing home when they arrive. Thomas walks in first. Then Rebecca. Mrs. Lewis looks up, stares. Her hands start shaking. She reaches out, like she's afraid Rebecca might disappear again if she doesn't hold on. Harper. Rebecca kneels down in front of her, takes her hands. I don't remember being Harper, she says softly. But I'm here, and I'm okay. Mrs. Lewis pulls her close, holds her like she's 4 years old again. And for the first time in 49 years, she lets herself believe her daughter is finally home. Now comes the question everyone wants answered. Where the hell is Donna Craig? The task force has a name. They have a history. They have a victim who survived. But they don't have her. Rebecca gives them the last address she remembers, a trailer park outside Bozeman, Montana. She left at 18, desperate to escape, and never looked back. That was over 30 years ago. Odds are, Donna's long gone. But they check anyway. FBI agents, local police, and a SWAT team roll up to the trailer park on a Wednesday morning. It's one of those places that looks frozen in time, rusted RVs, overgrown lots, satellite dishes, held together with duct tape. Lot 47. A dingy single-wide with peeling paint and curtains drawn tight. They knock. No answer. They knock again. Announce themselves. A voice from inside. Thin, shaky, old. Who is it? FBI. We need to speak with Dorothy Keller. Dorothy Keller. The alias. Rebecca had mentioned it. Donna started using that name sometime in the 90 seconds. The door opens a crack, and there she is. Donna Craig. 87 years old now. Skeletal. Hunched over a walker. Hair white and thin. Eyes cloudy with age. She looks at the agents like she doesn't understand why they're there. Can I help you? They arrest her on the spot. Handcuff an 87-year-old woman who can barely stand. At the station, they try to interview her, but it becomes clear within the first 10 minutes. Donna's mind is gone. Dementia. Advanced. She drifts in and out of coherence. Sometimes she thinks it's 1,982. Sometimes she doesn't know her own name. Other times, she's sharp enough to recognize what's happening and shuts down completely. When they ask about Harper Lewis, she stares blankly. When they ask about Rebecca Marsh, nothing. When they show her photos of the other missing children, the 6 cases they've linked to her, she smiles. This unsettling, vacant smile. I saved them, she says quietly. They were broken. I made them whole. Saved them from what? From the world. From people who didn't deserve them. Where are they now? She doesn't answer, just hums to herself. Some old folk song that nobody recognizes. The FBI tries for weeks. Different tactics. Different interviewers. Psychiatrists. Cognitive specialists. But Donna's mind is a labyrinth with no exit. She can't or won't give them anything useful. A psychological evaluation comes back with the diagnosis. Severe dementia, with delusional disorder. Possibly a variant of Munchausen by proxy, a warped, maternal obsession that drove her to rescue children she believed were in danger. In her fractured mind, she wasn't a kidnapper, she was a savior. Then, something remarkable happens. The story breaks nationally. News outlets pick it up. Woman abducted as child in 1976, found alive after 49 years. Within weeks, 3 other adults come forward. All of them saw the coverage. All of them recognized Donna's face. All of them had been taken as toddlers in the late 70 seconds and early 80 seconds. Raised in isolation, told their families didn't want them, eventually released, dropped off at churches, bus stations, shelters, when they got too old or too difficult to control. They'd spent their whole lives thinking they were abandoned, unwanted. Now, they learned the truth. They were stolen. DNA tests confirm their identities. Families reunite. Some joyful, some devastating, most a complicated mix of both. But justice? Donna Craig is declared mentally incompetent to stand trial. She's transferred to a state psychiatric facility, where she'll live out the rest of her days under supervision. No trial, no sentencing, no courtroom confrontation, where victims get to face their abuser and demand answers. The families are furious, heartbroken, but there's nothing anyone can do. At least we have answers, one mother says through tears. That's more than most families ever get. It's not justice, but in cold cases like this, sometimes answers are all you get. 3 weeks after Rebecca's reunion with her mother, Detective Raymond Cole gets a phone call. It's Jordan. She's in Montana. She asks if he's strong enough to travel. There's someone who wants to meet you, Grandpa. Cole's 83. His knees don't work like they used to. His heart's not what it was. But he doesn't hesitate. Book the flight. They meet at a quiet cafe in Missoula. Rebecca's sitting by the window when Cole walks in. Jordan's with him, holding his arm to keep him steady. Rebecca stands, extends her hand. Cole doesn't shake it. He pulls her into a hug. This old man who spent half a century searching, holding the woman he never stopped believing was out there. I knew, he says, voice cracking. I knew you were alive. Rebecca's crying now too. You never gave up. Couldn't, didn't know how. They sit. Cole pulls a worn folder from his bag, the original case file. The one he carried on his desk for 49 years. Every page, stained with coffee rings and fingerprints, and the weight of obsession. He slides it across the table. This belongs to you now, he says. It's your story, not mine. Rebecca opens it, looks at the photos, the reports, the sketches, the timeline. A life she doesn't remember, documented by a man who refused to forget. Thank you, she whispers, for not giving up on me. Cole smiles. That tired, relieved smile of someone who finally gets to put down a burden they've carried too long. You don't thank someone for doing what's right. 8 months later, Raymond Cole passes away, peacefully, at home, surrounded by family. His obituary mentions his 40-year career in law enforcement, the awards, the commendations. But the part that gets shared the most, the part that goes viral, is the line about Harper Lewis. Detective Cole dedicated his life to a case others abandoned. His persistence brought a lost child home after 49 years. He proved that hope, even when it seems impossible, is never wasted. Jordan writes a feature article honoring him. It's published in newspapers across the country. Millions read it. But the best tribute? Rebecca attends his funeral. Sits in the front row with the family. Because she is family now. Bound by something deeper than blood. Bound by a promise an old detective made half a century ago and never broke. So where is Rebecca Marsh Harper Lewis today? She's still in Montana. Still working at the library. Still living the quiet life she built for herself. But things are different now. She talks to her brother every week. Video calls with her mom at the nursing home every few days. She's learning about the family she lost, the traditions, the inside jokes, the history that was stolen from her. It's not easy. You don't just erase 49 years and start over. She goes by Rebecca, not Harper. That little girl disappeared. She told a reporter last year. I'm not her anymore. But I can honor her by living the life she never got to have. Therapy helps. So does time. So does knowing the truth. She's writing a book. Her story, in her own words. The working title, Chosen, A Stolen Life, and The Detective Who Wouldn't Quit. All proceeds go to missing children's organizations. The case changed things beyond just one family. Harper Lewis's story became a catalyst. Police departments across the country started reviewing their cold case files with fresh eyes. Detectives who'd given up hope started reopening old disappearances, looking for patterns, running DNA through genealogy databases. In the 2 years since Rebecca was found, 7 other cold cases have been solved using similar methods. 7 families got answers. 7 people came home. Detective Cole's approach, never closing the file, keeping hope alive, believing when everyone else moved on, became a model. Some agencies now call it the Cole Protocol. His legacy isn't just one case. It's a mindset. a refusal to abandon the lost. And the lessons? This story reminds us that truth has a way of surfacing, even after decades of silence. That one overlooked detail can rewrite history. That persistence, stubborn, relentless, exhausting persistence sometimes pays off in ways you can't predict. But maybe the biggest lesson is this: never underestimate the power of someone who refuses to give up. Raymond Cole could have moved on, could have prioritized cases with better leads, stronger evidence, higher chances of success, but he didn't, because to him, Harper wasn't a statistic. She was a child who deserved to be found. And 50 years later, that belief brought her home. The Lewis family will never get back what was stolen. Harper's childhood, her memories, the decades they could have spent together, but they have something now that they didn't have before: closure, truth, and each other. And sometimes, in cases like this, that's the closest thing to justice you'll ever get. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and share it with someone who loves true crime. These stories matter. They remind us that the truth always finds a way. And hey, before you go, drop a comment. Do you think justice was served, even though Donna never stood trial? I really want to know what you think. Let's talk about it.